All right, and we're live. Welcome to the Parenthood Revolution. Our guest today is Carolyn Szturm, right? Carolyn is a 7th degree Reiki Master with over 15 years of counseling, teaching, and energy healing work experience. She specializes in family dynamics, trauma, relationships, diversity, and personal growth and healing. Thank you, Carolyn, for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we were talking a lot before we started, and I was like, we need to go live and get this on into the group because we were kind of covering a whole lot of things. So how about actually we'll start with you sharing your own story.
Sure. So I'm Carolyn Szturm, and like it was mentioned, I am a 7th degree Reiki Master teacher. So what that means is I'm a Reiki practitioner as well as I can teach and attune to Reiki's level 1, 2, and 3. I've had over 15 years of counseling experience. So that's working with all age groups, predominantly youth. I've also done some in-home family support work. So that's working with parents mostly to help support them through the parenting woes and journeys, and as well as working with an older demographic, as we do see with certain youth that they are being raised by grandparents as well. So, and I also am with a contract with Mind Your Mind, which is a youth mental health organization. And we run a website. We're just all about talking about what mental health is and how to provide different ways to be well. So I have a lot of experience supporting people.
That's awesome. Mental health is a big topic, and especially now, but it's
Hmm.
starting to get so much more attention and
Hmm.
awareness. And then all of this happened. And I'm
Hmm.
finding that the mental health aspect is probably the most challenging part of this for me.
It really is a mental thing, where no matter where you lie within that, everyone's diagnosis is unique in terms of like its own makeup to who they are. So there's like a foundation of similarity, obviously, and then we have our own like flavor we bring to the table as people. So, and even if you don't have a diagnosis, it doesn't mean that you're not experiencing anxiety or depression or some of these other feelings, especially during this time, because so much is being triggered, as we were talking about before we went live, in our dynamic right now. We are all navigating a lot, and it's very hard. It's heavy.
Yeah. So what can you say about how do we, okay, actually, let's start with energy. And what got you into doing energy work? If you just could kind of define it and why it's important. And you even mentioned like people could do have energy healing as self-care.
Mhm. Yeah. So I would say almost 15 years ago, I wanted to take a personal development course of some time, like, or at some time, just of whatever, let me pick something that seems interesting. And so I read about Reiki level 1, and I was like, okay, like I've always sort of felt energy from my hands, if you want to say like I like an aura. And that seemed really interesting to me. And so that kind of began my journey. I got my Reiki level 1, and when I was pregnant with my son almost 9 years ago, I got my Reiki level 2, and then just kind of kept going. And I've always been in tunes, like I'm a spiritual seeker. That's always been a passion and fascination of mine. And it just coupled nicely with the Reiki. And so, in terms of energy, we are energy. Energy is all around us. And so, Reiki is honing in on the feel of the energy and what that is, and then administering, if you will, almost like an energy medicine to different things that are going on. So, in terms of I have clients who have different like I have a client with fibromyalgia, and so during our treatments, there's a huge focus on acknowledging the trauma that she's experienced, and then working on releasing that energy that has to do with the fibro and the symptoms and realities that come with that. And so after an energy treatment with that, it's not when you get a massage, you get the knot, you're like, oh, that feels good. Reiki penetrates into the very core because we are energy. So there's a lot of really deep energy healing that can happen, and our bodies hang on to everything. So even now, as we're moving through this pandemic, and if I've had a really stressful day, I always can feel it in my body after. Like, I'm like, oh, wow, like I need to do X, Y, and Z because my stomach is knotted or my upper back is so sore, tight. Um, it's just very normal for us to have our feelings and kind of try and put them somewhere else, but then they manifest in our body. So and yeah, it really is a passion. It's my calling, to be honest. So it always felt quite natural for me to do that and bring it in. So in terms of energy, I also receive energy support from a couple of people. One of them is my Reiki Master. Another one is a leveler who does that, and it's all remote, which means um, it's a phone call, it's a Zoom, and you are still getting that work because it's energy. So it doesn't matter that you're there and I'm here. I could give you a Reiki treatment right now, and you if are open to that and you feel the impacts of the energy healing.
Oh,
So I've
wow.
been seeing remote clients since this started because all it takes is you and me to coordinate a time, and then we move through the energy. And as someone who's empathic, I can feel your feelings if you want that. And so I sort of hone in and move through your 7 main chakras, cleansing and clearing anything that comes up in relation to what your wishes are out of that healing that happens.
Awesome. Okay, so then how does energy work for like these family dynamics? So
Hmm.
um, if somebody's feeling stressed,
Hmm.
how can we as moms, but also recognizing that we have our own stuff too, right? Like
Oh,
we're
yes.
trying to deal with all of this, like this whole crisis on our own, and then helping our kids at the same time.
I know it's a lot. It's so much. So, firstly, like, let's just all collectively acknowledge that there is not one right way to do something, and that it's very normal to feel um, low or defeated or like, is this all for something when it comes to like, oh my gosh, like my family today, or like me today, or you today, or whatever is personally going on. So in terms of energy and what we can do, um, really being able to identify like what is mine. So I'm not sure if any of you
Mm,
or anyone who is watching, your mood might shift, but is it yours? Are you picking up on what's around you? Like my children are literally like on top of my head most of the time. So I really can get a sense of their energy. Like I can feel my son coming up the stairs like that. I'm like, oh, I just sense his energy. So even just knowing within ourselves, like,
awesome.
what is our energy? So if you were to do this and wait until you felt some warm, that's your energy. That's your aura. You're feeling energy. So if we can all be in touch with our own feeling and sort of go, okay, let me separate what I'm feeling from what someone else is feeling.
Mm,
And then what do I need to do? Because I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm still like, there are moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? What is happening right now? Because these are also times like we have not been through something like this, most of us.
right.
Especially like I in terms of like my generation, if you grew up in Canada, like I'm 40 years old, we have not been through this type of a thing at all. So this is new for us. And then just navigating what's happening with our children as well. And so also being mindful, take a moment to really observe whose energy has shifted. Like maybe while you're doing whatever you're doing, like for me, it would be while I'm cooking in my kitchen and I can look and see down on what my children are doing, and I can like sense that something, that like mom spidey sense when you're like, oh, something, it's that same thing. It's like tapping into your own intuition, like what's going on. And when I'm
Mm,
feeling something, it's asking the question, like, why am I feeling this? Why is this making making me so angry? You know, why am I feeling all of these big feelings? What really is it for me? And then also taking the opportunity when you can to explore that in a more meaningful way, because the more we do that, we sharpen those skills, right? It's like, oh, okay. Because I'm pretty good at being like, this is mine or this is yours. But if I'm tired and feeling emotionally and mentally exhausted from having had, 3 weeks of at home, working from home, like working, doing Mind Your Mind. I'm finishing up my semester at Fanshawe with my students. I'm doing remote clients. My kids are 8 and 6. I'm single parenting. It's a lot. So, there are times where it's like, whoa, what do I need to do for self-care? Because right now in this moment, it isn't good. And just being open to like exploring that. And then also, so you can do that in the form of journaling. So you can actually write out like, earlier today I was feeling this. And when I thought about it, the first thought that came into my head was my mom, my dad, that thing that happened. Okay, so keep pulling keep pulling that apart, because our instincts, our intuition, our connection to spirit and divine, these things are all there to kind of be like, hey, here's an area of healing. When after maybe we've all had a giant meltdown in my family and we kind of reconvene and get back on track, my thought is like, what is the bigger picture healing for us? Like what seed can I plant today that maybe I'll see the fruition of like 10 years down the road?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's also that understanding of like things that we're doing today, even when they maybe don't feel huge. Like I let my kids use wall paint on these boards in the kitchen and the paint got on the carpet, and I was like, my life. And then it was like, was that really, really though, Carolyn? Like, do you think what are they going to remember about when this time happened?
Right. Oh,
Um,
interesting.
but I was really angry when it
Yeah.
happened, you know, but it was
Yeah.
like, what are the big deals and what are not? And I think because there's so much that's out of our control about this. We seek so much to gain control in our homes because these are our safe places. But now we're finding that our homes are feeling a little bit out of control too. And so then, like, what do we do and what does that mean? And there are breathing techniques that you can do for grounding as well, and just again being in touch with your own energy, and you see it in yoga, you definitely see it in Reiki, but that idea of like breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth. I love to do visualizations with clients, so like you want to breathe in light and relaxing through your nose, and you want to breathe out everything that's like gunky and funky and get it gone.
Right.
So yeah, those are some of the things.
Cool. So what happens? So like for instance, with the paint on the carpet, when those emotions are really big,
Yeah.
right? And it's not, it feels almost like you can't even see the outside of it, or you can't even talk yourself down or
No.
anything. But then it's almost so having that big, huge emotion and then trying to keep the household together, right? Because
Mm,
like I know for our house, like if I explode, then everybody starts to feel chaotic, right?
yes.
So trying to keep that
Mhm.
together.
It's hard. It's a lot of pressure to be an anchor for the
Right.
family, no matter who's in it, no matter what, and especially as women, we like intuitively go there. Um, and honestly, like full transparency, I was like, um, I was out of it in terms of like, I was exhausted. I
Mm,
had released so much and also pent up. So this wasn't like, the paint was the straw that broke the camel's back, right?
right.
That expression. And just after my children witnessed me having such a huge emotional moment, um, it was then, providing them the comfort. So earlier I mentioned like pretending to smile when really you're just
Mm,
like, oh,
yeah.
and I think that there's something to be said of like, there really may be moments where like, girl, I can't even muster the smile. So
Right.
don't, right? Like, just don't. I don't know what you can do. You know what you can do. So do that. In that moment for me, it was like, okay, come for a hug. I'm really sorry. It's hard. Like, I've really been having honest conversations with my kids about life and living with people and like our family. And I understand that I come from an education, I come from a lot of years of experience of like having really hard conversations and talking about family and like pulling it apart for people. So that is a comfortable conversation for me to have with my kids, but it doesn't make it any easier to be the adult whose inner child is roaring, and trying to, repair that, and really
Right.
just being like, what can I do differently next time? Like, I think as parents, it's really important to just kind of own that. Like my son was like the other day, he's like, I think you need to go to your room. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like this morning I was like,
Mm,
Carolyn, you need to stop talking right now because you're the problem. So it was even identifying that
wow.
like I was the problem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my lord, me to like keep my mouth closed is a thing. I don't know where he gets it from.
Yeah.
Actually both my kids. But like it was just being like that idea of having self-awareness and being like, it's me or it's you, or like, you know what, I'm having a moment, but it's okay. Like, I'm okay.
Right.
Um, and reassuring them in that, like, our kids are really being exposed to real life, at a young age now, I think, because of this and because they're seeing things that are real. And maybe that isn't everyone's experience, but definitely the people who I speak to and the clients who I'm chatting with, like, we're all supporting our loved ones through this.
Yeah.
And sometimes we aren't getting what we need, and that struggle is very real.
Right. Let's talk about inner child for a minute. We were talking about that before.
Ooh,
So
yeah, exactly.
I like, so I was talking about how I was reading John Bradshaw's Homecoming, and it's such a mind-blowing book on the fact that it's our like inner child, and he even starts at infancy. Our inner child is
Mhm.
creating all of this stuff, right? Like in terms
Yes.
of tantruming and
I know it
yeah,
well. Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
And
Yep.
so what can you say about inner child work? And
Okay. So inner child work, basically for those who don't know, John Bradshaw, definitely someone worth reading. He is or was an expert, in terms of looking at inner child and dealing with, codependency and, alcoholism and being raised by an addict, and like very groundbreaking work. And the concept of the inner child is that all of us grow up, our family of origins are the families which we grow up in and they raise us. In our family of origins, we all have wounds where we sort of stopped emotionally growing at that part. And it could be like one section here and like one thing over here, or maybe something huge. It's all very unique. Again, this is like, your own story. And I'm sure even as I said that, there may have been things that were like popping up that you're
yeah,
like, ooh, is it this? Yeah, it is that. If the thought
well,
came into
yeah.
your head, it's that. Um, and just that idea of like, baby Carolyn or toddler Carolyn or schoolgirl Carolyn or teenage Carolyn is feeling or is triggered because what's going on in the present is bringing up a way, that I felt or that we felt when we were younger, and it's an unhealed area. So it comes out as I'm a 40-year-old woman who, um, also had a tantrum the other day. you
Right,
know,
yeah.
now having said that, under normal circumstances, it probably wouldn't have been quite like that. But having said that, it was like, oh, there's a little healing goal for you, Carolyn.
Yeah.
And so this is what this is bringing up for a lot of us, especially as parents, because we can do the self work and be like, I feel like really good about where I'm at in terms of my healing. And then when we move through the experience of parenting, we see like, whoa, this has taken my healing game to a whole new level, because now I really was like, I feel like I totally forgive my mom, and I like understand why X, Y, and Z happened and they did that. And then now we're parenting and it's like, I thought I forgave my mom for that thing.
Yeah. Yes,
No, I'm pretty sure I said
exactly.
I was over it with my dad. And then
Yeah.
like now I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like dig a little deeper. And so um that's inner child work. It's really going like, who needs what? Does baby Carolyn need a nap? Baby Carolyn
Mm.
probably needs a bottle and to be rocked to sleep.
Oh,
So
yeah.
no one can do that for me here, but what can I do so that that is simulated for me? So John Bradshaw would actually like have adults and be doing this inner child work in workshops. You can see the videos. They're very like, it's so interesting. And it would literally be like you're holding a teddy bear and it's you, like
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's very deep, it's very intense. Or like you and me would be partners, and you're my mom and I'm having a conversation with my mom that my inner child like needs to have, and you playing the role of my mom would like say back to me what like toddler Carolyn or whoever Carolyn, that younger version, would be needing to hear. And the idea is like we're weaving and sewing healing into these wounds so that we can sort of let them go. And then
Interesting.
I don't need to access that depth of anger. It no longer isn't as deep anymore. So it's really, really deep healing work. It's really deep healing work. And it is triggering a lot of us. And if you don't know it, you're like, you just might feel out of control. Like
Right.
it's a very understandable feeling.
Yeah, like even this morning, so I'm in my daughter's room and she's put up all these like posters and she's decorated her room ever since she's been home full time.
Yeah.
And so I go to use her desk and she has this like container of water. And I put my stuff down, my laptop and everything, and I spill this container of water and I just lost it. And she's like, Mom, it's a container of water. Like, get over it. And I'm like, get
How
over it.
dare
Like, yeah,
you?
exactly. And then I was like,
Do
what?
you know?
Exactly. It is so crazy. And in that moment, it
Yeah.
was, I couldn't talk myself out of it. It was almost like
Hmm.
she left the room. And then when I cooled down, I was like, holy crap, like, who cares? It was a container of water that spilled on the floor.
I know. Yes, all of that, yes.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, it's like, I think, well, I already did it,
Yeah.
so I can't take that back. Okay, what does like genuine repair look like? Or like, when you apologize to someone and it's the idea of like, being sorry is an action. So, like, what can I do better? And then actually like doing better, or being willing to just have that honest conversation like, um I'm sorry, that that wasn't cool. I
Right.
do need to do better. I'm working on it. There are a lot of times where I'm trying, like even in terms of button pushing. Ooh, like I'll say to my children, like, I'm giving you warnings now because I'm starting to, the little patience cup that I had is dwindling, and I'm trying to save you.
Yeah.
Like, because the other reality is, and we talked about this earlier as well, we might have bits and pieces and moments of self-care and like kind of what we need sort of in this time. It's it it doesn't seem to ever really fill what we truly need. And so a lot of us are like functioning from a more depleted level, because it's not taking as long to be frustrated as it would have. Like, I go to work, my kids go to school, we come home, we have a few hours together in the evening, like maybe it's nice, my son's outside playing, my daughter's doing her own thing. So like that's great. There's less time to be frustrated with a
Right.
behavior, having to deal with, you know an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old who are at their worst. Like, talk about actual children though. Like, it isn't like it's, my inner child, it's them being children.
Right.
So I'm always about keeping it real. I don't care what your age is. I think you can say it appropriately. Should that be your flavor? We're a little spicy in my family. But keep it real. Like, this is hard, and that is what it is. So
Right. And how can you check in with your children, like mental health wise?
for instance, when I have a moment of space with one of them, do check in with them. I think it's great to ask kids how they're doing, and, like, fine or okay, like, kind of be willing to maybe push that conversation a little bit farther so you can, like, open the invitation, because us as the adults have to kind of guide that. So even in terms of something that had happened earlier today, with my daughter got a makeup kit and my son ruined the one thing and it was really whatever, and she hates her brother, and
Mm,
all of this stuff. And so then later, when her and I were talking, and all of that had sort of blown over, it was like, well, how are you, Jenny? And she's like, good. I'm still mad at Marcus. I'm like, understandable. This, that. I said, yep, totally. So even just letting them go and validating what they have to say,
mm,
it's real for them and it's
right.
hard for them. And then also together. So, like, I don't know why my children are the most talkative at bedtime, but that's when it all comes out. So it's like, fine. I'm like, okay, here's me. I'm like, can we all just go to sleep? And they're
Yeah.
like, and this other thing. I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
Like, all right, sure, go talk. All right, let's do it. But just giving them the space to kind of be like, say whatever it is, and have it be okay. Like, it needs to be okay to have our feelings, even when my daughter told me she was really scared when I was having my meltdown. Like, she felt scared of
Mhm.
me. And I was like, I'm really sorry. And I had to give her space. And then we revisited that. And I was like, I need to own my stuff here, because that was hard for her to see me really struggling and being upset and feeling angry and crying and all of the feelings that I was feeling. It was like, okay, tell me about that. I'm sorry that you did have those feelings. What can mommy do better next time? And then kind of making sure, like, I'm doing better next time. Um, we just all have to be okay having the feelings that we have. Um, and also, like, if kids want to write, if kids want to draw a picture, um, however they want to get out what they have to say, there is a way to express. It doesn't, like I said, it isn't like black or white. This is, we are 50 shades of so many colors. And so we really just
Mm,
need to be in a position to be that, and be like, I have a shadow side. I have issues I'm working on. Um, my children are going to be dealing with that too. And I'm sure some of the repercussions of navigating life in this pandemic are going to come out. And you're right, in terms of mental health. It is affecting all of our mental health, whether or not you have an actual diagnosis of some kind. This is affecting everyone. And as women, and that idea of being that anchor, it's hard to do that when we're not in our best space. But um, that is a reality. And then how do we, when we're in a better space, reassure our children to, like, we're okay, like, we had a moment, is really just having those open conversations. And like I said, just allowing people to really say what they feel and be truly honest about that, and being able to receive that information and be like, yeah, ouch.
yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, this is what we do. We love each other. We're going to keep going. We're trying again. Like, how many times can we reset, Connie? A lot. Like, it just, we have to take it situation by situation.
Right. I've been talking to my friends. So I posted an article in my group about these like 10 behaviors to watch for in children about like mental health around this pandemic. And regression
Mm-hmm.
seemed to be a big one that a lot of my friends are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Will children go back to like their appropriate age or?
Um, I think that in a lot of ways, even adults are regressing. I think those lists apply to people in general. And obviously, in terms of children, like, will there be some regression? There very well could be. What can we do? And I can already feel an energy like, no, 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 no. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to regress. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, I hear you. I don't want to either. Like I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so again, it's like really just owning the truth.
Okay.
What if we are? Okay, we're going to deal with it. Is that a bad thing? What value are you choosing to assign it? What is it? Why are we assigning a negative value to that? What questions pop up? Are we concerned like what their peers might think, what like teachers might think, other people? Are we trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever? Like
Interesting.
what are these concepts that challenge us to feel like it's bad if our children regress during this incredibly stressful time where like who they see is very limited. Even going outside isn't necessarily safe. Like sometimes I hate putting on the radio because I never know when I'm going to hear COVID-19 update. I'm like, just stop. Like
Right.
our children are taking it in. So is regression bad?
Mm.
I don't like doing good and bad. Um, that it's too much pressure. If that happens, I think it's just important to like support and reassure your child that like that's okay. Um, this too will pass. Like,
Okay.
regardless of how long it is, we're all going to get where we're going to go. For instance, I co-sleep. I have heard so many things my entire journey of being a parent about co-sleeping, and trust me, people don't mind to be like, let me tell you what I think about that.
Yeah.
They're never going to get out of your bed. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure that they will. It might be a few more years,
Yeah.
but like we're heading there. Like we're all going to get to where we're going.
Right.
We don't have to do it together. If your child regresses in one way, my child's regressing in another way. We've identified we've regressed.
Right.
Like we're all of the good stuff gets eroded over time because this is a challenging experience to have. So, really being gentle with ourselves and our kids is important. Is it easy? Does it always work? It doesn't. Thank God for apologies and the fact that our children love us unconditionally. Like, thank God,
Mm.
and that every moment is a new moment. Even when it doesn't feel like that or we're having a hard time remembering that. I think it's just super important to know that like kids are really resilient as well. And there's also a lot of support you can get them. Like even now, there's the online counseling things are going on for that. Like I said, if you have a Reiki practitioner or someone who does energy healing work, even if that's something anyone's interested in, I can definitely like feel free to reach out to me. I can share information of people who I trust in the energy healing community and that I seek energy healing from. And I have many children clients, animals, like we're all being affected. So, um, this isn't forever. Um, and and it's okay, like give them the hugs and journal about it. Like when we as parents feel stressed, what are we doing? Like I have my inner circle of friends who they all get the same message. I'm like, here's the update. Oh my God, I just failed as a mom. All they're like, no girl, this and that, this and that. So like, it's like reaching out to your people who really know you and like know your heart and can rally around you and be like, you're doing good, girl. Like you had a moment. It's okay.
Yeah.
it's hard. They won't remember. Like, I don't know. Will they? I don't know. But when
Yeah.
I think back on my childhood, I'm like, maybe I have like 4 solid memories.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, just try to step back from um that fear energy, because that's the other thing too, when you're talking about energy. Like, I'm not sure if your experience going out, but when I go out, like sometimes I can feel the anger in the air. I'm like, ooh, there's like some tension, it's bad. Like sometimes I feel the sickness energy in the air. Like it just is like, man, this is a weird time right now, and
Hmm.
people are struggling, and some
Right.
people are not doing their due diligence, and some people are absolutely doing their due diligence, and there's a whole spectrum of stuff, and it's just a lot. So it can feel hard to also go out and like pick up your groceries, or take your kids on a walk through a park, and try and be normal, and it's not. And then how to like disengage from that scary energy so that you can just enjoy going to the grocery store and like grabbing your food, and feeling like you likely will maintain your health through that experience, or that you can go out and like take a walk in the park, and likely you and your loved ones will maintain your health through that experience as well. um,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I get really stressed out
mhm.
like on my weekly grocery day.
Totally.
I get super stressed out and then I go out and I feel even more stressed out because of like people feeling stressed out, you know?
Totally.
And I didn't recognize that it was probably other people that I was feeling more stressed than it is myself.
Totally. Because when you're receptive to that, it starts to weigh you down, because you're like, I just want to like zone out and go through the grocery store. Like,
Yeah.
I'll put my earbuds in and listen to music, and I'm like, no one's getting looked at. And I'm like, why are you coming close to me right now? Like,
Yeah.
you need to, like,
Yeah.
like, hello, like, go. So it is that. I remember waiting in a lineup outside of Dollarama, and this guy was like not too close to me, but I'm like, dude, like, back up. Like, it isn't that hard. Like, I'm sure you're healthy. Like,
Yeah.
but it just, that unknown is really hard when we're all feeling so out of control. And there is a reality of, we have no control over this. In as much as we have the control that we have to do our due diligence to stay healthy, and wash our hands, and like not go to the hospital unless it's an emergency, and like all of those things, right? We
Mhm.
do have these small areas of what we can do, but this is just going to take the time it needs to take.
Mm. Okay, so one last question. Talking about the uncertainty, we were talking about this before, and I just wanted to bring it up. The, we don't know how long this is going to be, and I just love the advice that you gave about this because I feel like it's important. How can we stop from the spiral that will happen if we think like this is going to be our life for a year or a year and a half or
Okay, so really, I um I call on you to, and anyone who's watching, to think of this as an invitation. So, yes, there are some realities we're navigating in terms of like, we don't actually have like a solid timeline. Um, Things change daily sometimes. Um, and we're in close quarters with the same people. So, like, a lot is going on for us. This is an invitation to live in the now and just keep it in today. And that is easier said than done sometimes, most of the time, like depending on where you're at in your day, but also still making plans for your life, because there will be a time when this is something we talk about as, remember when that was, or like, oh man, this time last year or whatever, right? Well, we
right.
will get to that point. So keeping it in today while still making plans for your future. Like, I had someone talk to me about like really feeling like their life was put on hold now. And we had a whole conversation about shifting that thought process to, this is the perfect time to plan what you want. If you're unhappy in some aspect of your life, this is the perfect time to think about, what can I do to make this better for myself? And in terms of not knowing that timeline and staying in today, um, you know, well, if it gets extended to this date, okay. Like it's a bizarro thing, but I love to prepare for the worst case scenario mentally. I'm like, oh, whew, okay, good, because I do not want to be caught off guard on that one. Okay, so I'm like, you know what, if it goes till, if it this date, I got a projected date of like, okay, you know what, girl, you can do this. And I like talk to myself, so self-talk is huge. Really catch those thoughts that lead you to feeling fear, that lead you to feeling frustration, and try and stop it. Catch the thought, stop it, reframe the thought into something that's like, I can handle this. Or if it does go till X date, we're going to keep moving through the way we are. Um, and really just putting out there into the universe, what do you want from me? What's your plan for me? What should my next step be? Because I'm all over planning what's happening in my life. That isn't going away. I
Mm.
don't know when I can kind of pick up where I left off necessarily, but it's not going anywhere. So I really encourage everyone to keep living your life, keep planning for things, keep working on what you're working on. And if you're like, well, I don't have anything, what a perfect time to find something.
Mm.
We have all of these like online. You will find something. There is something for you, for everybody. So yeah, try and
Awesome.
stay in today.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Carolyn Szturm. My last name is Szturm. And yes, you can find me on both of those places, and definitely happy to connect with people in any way, shape, or form.
Awesome. All right, cool. Thank you.
Thanks,
And thank you
Connie.
to everyone who's watching.
Thank you.